Listen closely, because this is one of the most dangerous traps a man can fall into, and most don't even realize it's happening until their confidence is already bleeding out. When she makes you explain yourself, when every move you make needs justification, when your words are questioned, reframed, reinterpreted, or challenged, something has already shifted. This is no longer about understanding. This is about control. And the moment you start over-explaining, defending, clarifying, or justifying your existence, you're no longer standing in your power. You are negotiating your worth. And a man who negotiates his worth is already losing. You have to understand this at a deep level. A man who is solid does not need to narrate himself. He does not need to convince anyone that his intentions are pure, his actions are valid, or his decisions are reasonable. His life speaks for him. His consistency speaks for him. His presence speaks for him. The moment you are pushed into constant explanation, you're being pulled out of your masculine frame and dragged into a react. Explanations are not neutral. Explanations are submissions when they are demanded instead of requested with respect. There's a difference between choosing to explain something once and being forced to explain yourself over and over like you're on trial. One is communication. The other is interrogation. And interrogations are about power. When she makes you explain yourself, she is watching how quickly you abandon your certainty. She is watching whether you trust your own judgment or need her approval to feel okay with your decisions. She is watching whether you stand firm or start bending your story to keep the peace. And most men bend. They soften their tone. They add extra words. They start walking things back. They say things like, "That's not what I meant," or "You misunderstood me," or "Let me explain." And with every sentence, their authority drains that here's the brutal truth most men don't want to face. The more you explain, the less you are respected. Not because explaining is wrong in itself, but because over-explaining signals uncertainty. It signals fear of disapproval. It signals that you're trying to be accepted instead of being grounded. And attraction does not live where approval-seeking lives. Respect does not grow where self-doubt is on display. A woman who respects you does not need you to constantly justify your choices. She may ask questions, yes, but there is a difference between curiosity and challenge. Curiosity seeks understanding. Challenge seeks dominance. When every answer you give leads to another question, when clarity never seems enough, when you feel like no explanation ever fully satisfies her, that's not miscommunication. That's a power play. And the mistake men make is thinking the solution is better words, smarter words, longer explanations, more emotional labor. But words don't fix a power imbalance. They expose it. The more you talk, the more material you give her to twist, question, or use against you. You think you're clearing things up, but what you're actually doing is digging yourself deeper into a hole that a man in control understands this instinctively. He answers once, calmly, directly, without emotion, and then he stops. He does not chase understanding. He does not argue his position. He does not try to be seen as the good guy. He knows who he is, and that certainty is immovable. When she pushes you to explain yourself, what she's really asking is this: are you confident enough to stand on your decision without my approval? And if you keep talking, you're answering no. Let me tell you something important. Silence is not weakness. Silence is restraint. Silence is confidence that does not need validation. Silence says, "I've said what I said." Silence says, "I don't need to convince you." Silence says, "My reality does not collapse because you question it." Most men are terrified of silence because silence removes their ability to manage perception. They want to be understood so badly that they will explain themselves into the ground. But the strongest men are not understood by everyone. They are respected by those who matter. And respect comes from firmness, not verbosity. When you stop talking, the dynamic changes. Suddenly, she has nothing to push against. Suddenly, the interrogation loses momentum. Suddenly, the power grab stalls. And here's the key part. When you stop explaining, people are forced to deal with your actions instead of your words. And actions are harder to manipulate. That over-explaining is often driven by fear. Fear of being seen as wrong. Fear of being misunderstood. fear of losing connection. But connection built on self-erasure is not connection. It's dependency. And dependency always ends with resentment. A man who respects himself allows others to disagree with him. He does not panic when someone challenges his view. He does not scramble to smooth things over. He does not beg to be seen in a favorable light. He knows that alignment is voluntary. And if alignment requires him to shrink, it's not worth having. When she makes you explain yourself repeatedly, she is testing your boundaries. She's seeing how far she can push before you push back. And pushing back does not require aggression. It requires stillness. It requires saying less, not more. It requires holding eye contact, holding posture, holding frame. There's power in saying, I've already explained this. There's power in saying, that's my decision. There is power in saying nothing at all. Because when you stop feeding the cycle dies. Men who talk too much reveal insecurity. Men who speak with precision reveal strength. You don't need to defend your masculinity. You don't need to justify your standards. You don't need to explain why you won't tolerate something. Your willingness to walk away explains everything. Here's another hard truth. When you explain yourself excessively, you train people to challenge you. You teach them that pushing you yields more information, more emotional energy, more engagement. You reward the behavior you should be shutting down. And once that pattern is established, it becomes the norm. Strong men do not argue their boundaries. They enforce them through action. If a boundary is crossed, they respond accordingly. No lectures, no debates, no long speeches, just consequences. And consequences speak louder than explanations ever will. When you stop talking, you reclaim your center. You stop reacting. You stop performing. You stop chasing approval. And that shift is felt immediately. People may not like it, but they will respect it. And respect is non-negotiable. A lot of men confuse being kind with being weak. They think silence is rude. They think firmness is harsh. They think clarity requires verbosity. It doesn't. Clarity requires conviction. And conviction does not need decoration. That if she genuinely wants to understand you, one explanation is enough. If she keeps pressing, she's not seeking clarity. She's seeking leverage. And leverage only exists if you keep handing it over. The moment you feel like you're on trial for being yourself, it's time to stop talking. The moment you feel like every sentence is being dissected, it's time to stop engaging. The moment you feel drained instead of aligned, it's time to step back. You are not here to be interrogated. You're not here to audition for acceptance. You're not here to prove your worth through words. You are here to live in alignment with your values. Anyone who wants to be part of that will understand without excessive explanation. And if they don't, that tells you everything you need to know. A man who can sit in silence without anxiety is dangerous. He cannot be manipulated with confusion. He cannot be controlled with questions. He cannot be bent by pressure. Because he knows that his truth does not need approval to exist. Stop talking when explanations are demanded instead of respected. Stop talking when your words are being used to undermine you. Stop talking when you feel yourself shrinking. Silence is not retreat. Silence is stance. And here's the final thing you need to understand. The more you explain yourself, the less mysterious you become. And mystery is power. Mystery keeps people attentive. Mystery keeps respect alive. When you reveal everything, justify everything, narrate everything, you remove the edge. You don't need to win arguments. You need to maintain frame. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You need to be solid with yourself. And that solidity comes from knowing when to speak and when to shut up. If she makes you explain yourself, stop talking. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your absence speak if necessary. Because the man who can walk away without a word has already said everything. Now, before you go, understand this. This channel is for men who are done over-explaining, done bending, done losing power through words. If this message sharpened your awareness, if it hit something real inside you, then don't just nod and move on. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. This is real talk for men who want strength, discipline, and self-respect. Stay grounded. Stay silent when needed. And never explain yourself into weakness.